Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to this review, and I hope you guys enjoyed. So Oblivion, The Elder Scrolls 4, was released in March 20th of 2006 by Bethesda Studio, and the leading producer on the game was, of course, we all know Todd Howard. So let's talk about Oblivion. Does it hold up today? How does it stand? Well, let's just jump right into my review and my retrospective of the game. So first off, the story, it's immaculate. I think it's better than Skyrim in many ways. The side quests are really where the stories in Oblivion surpass Skyrim in multiple ways, but one of the best things about the story with Oblivion, at least the main story, is that you are not the super special, awesome, mega ruler of the universe. You are just a guy in prison, as you are in most Elder Scrolls games, and what happens is that you are helping the main character. You're actually a side character in Oblivion, in a way. Martin Septim is the main character of Oblivion in a lot of aspects. He even goes through the whole hero's journey of his higher calling and not sure if he's ready for that purpose. And I don't want to spoil too much of the story in case there are people that have never played it, but basically you are not the super special awesome guy, you are the guy that helps the super special awesome guy. And that really lets you build the character in the way you want. You don't have to act a certain way. You can play the game in many, many ways, and I think that kind of like lets you role play a lot more, and it actually makes you more invested in your own character, because in Skyrim, no matter what you do, no matter what character you play as, no matter what skills you level up, you're always the Dragonborn. You are hard casted into the role of Dragonborn. You can't be the not Dragonborn. You are the Dragonborn. You are the super legendary, special, awesome person that only comes along in great times of need. Like, you are literally picked by Akatosh, the dragon god of time himself, to save Skyrim. And it just feels really bad in a sense that you can't really get invested in your character unless you want to roleplay as the Dragonborn. You can't just be, oh, I'm just a traveling adventurer, a traveling warrior. And Oblivion, I think, knocks that out of the park. You can be whoever you want. You can really dictate your own story, and you can dictate how you roleplay in the main story. I think that's why a lot of people look back on Oblivion fondly, is just from their characters. They remember what they played as. They remember their role playing as that character, and they're like, yeah, okay, like, I'm super heavily invested in this. I'm not just the Dragonborn. I am, you know, this character. I'm from the Somerset Isles or whatever. Like, they have their own lore built into it, and I think that world building is something that Oblivion does better than any other Elder Scrolls game, and I think that's why the story is held up as well as it does, despite the fact that the graphics, well, the graphics in Oblivion, you can tell it was made in 2006, and yeah, it's pretty bad. It's kind of aged like milk. The facial, to be honest, the graphics themselves aren't bad. The world isn't that bad. The spell effects aren't that bad. The items, like the weapons and stuff, aren't that bad. It's really just the facial expressions. It's really just that really weird, uncanny valley weird feeling that you get from Oblivion faces. And good lord, is it just super, like, if the story is super immersive and lets you roleplay, the faces really take you out of it. Now, that being said, you know, for granted, if you play for 10 or so hours, you eventually get used to it. It's not a big deal. So graphics wise, there's a learning curve to the graphics in this game, and it's like you know, there's a learning curve to gameplay. There's learning curves to the graphics in this game. Eventually, you'll overlook it, and eventually it won't be a big deal, but at first, you're definitely going to notice it, especially if you come from things like Skyrim or like even Elden Ring, and you want to play Oblivion. You're going to notice right off the bat, and it's going to take you a few hours of gameplay before you stop caring that much about it. As far as music goes, the sounds in Elder Scrolls games are just peak. There's not a single Elder Scrolls game where the music didn't go absolutely harder than it needed to. Even in Daggerfall, the music was a banger. Like, the music in this game is peak. From the ambience to the big orchestrals, every sound and its weight hits you with its just massive girth in this game. I mean, it's whipping out its dick, okay? This is Bethesda showing their musical chops when it comes to orchestrating music for video games. Like, whoever they got to compose this game, 10 out of 10 banger, just like every other Elder Scrolls. I've never had an issue with music inside the Elder Scrolls genre. Like, the entire series has just been peak music as far as I'm concerned. The combat is a step up and leagues ahead of Morrowind. That being said, in the modern day where we are spoiled for choices from things like Dark Souls to Elden Ring, even Skyrim, it leaves a lot to be desired. Oblivion is not carried by its combat, more so its RPG elements like spell making, stat progression, leveling your character, and the fact that you can roleplay as your character in any way you want. The game is carried more by that than the weight of its combat, because its combat is it's something. Yeah, the combat is not Oblivion's strong suit. However, its magic system is actually pretty robust, and I think it's very enjoyable to cast spells in Oblivion and to craft your own and learn. So I would highly recommend a spell blade of some type if you want to get the full experience from Oblivion. I mean, you can do a full melee character. In fact, I did a full archer character, and I might make a future video on his story, because there was a lot of hilarious things that happened because I made a stealth archer wood elf character, and I think telling his story would be pretty funny. One thing about the game, though, is the scaling seems a bit wonky. Most of my attacks on my archer build, even when I wasn't stealthing, they would just one-shot enemies, and, and then other times you would get into the game and they would be bullet sponges, And yes, stealth archer builds are still absolutely broken, but, it's a stealth archer build. I'm not sure what you expected. All that being said, every Elder Scrolls games has their nightmare quest lines, and with Skyrim, it was the War Council, and with Oblivion, it's the main quest line, Aid for Bruma. And good lord, it's actually one of the most repetitive fetch quests in every sense of the word. And but that being said, there are great ones. Like, one of the best quest lines is the Dark Brotherhood story. While the Dark Brotherhood has its issues, mostly bugs and pacings, it has really clever writing, references, and plot twists that kind of hit you like a Mack truck. And honestly, if you're going to do a side quest, the Dark Brotherhood is probably one of the best ones to do. That being said, there's a ton of great side quests in this game. But another issue that some people might face is that some quest lines are locked behind skill requirements or reputation, and it can take a lot of grinding to really experience it all if you're not on a very optimal character that just does everything, which is a good and a bad thing, because it does mean that you need to play the game more than once. However, some people might not want to do that, but I would argue that that's kind of the whole point of RPGs, is to play different characters and experience them differently, because each race, each class, it has its own story to tell, and that's where some of the replay value comes from. And going back to the Aid for Bruma quest, Oblivion Gates are all tedious and repetitive. The Oblivion Gates, which kind of are the main appeal of this game, unfortunately are probably one of the worst things in the game. They're just very lackluster. They all basically play exactly the same, and to be completely honest, they're very, very fucking boring. I don't think I remember a single layout of an Oblivion Gate, because there are static ones, and then there's just random ones that pop up that are just, like, I believe randomly generated. But yeah, Jesus Christ, are they just like some of the worst things in the game to do. In fact, I would say avoid them at all costs and only do the ones that are necessary, to be honest with you. And in summary, I do have to say Oblivion is a great game, but it was way ahead of its time, and it's showing its age partly because of that. But I'd still recommend it because it's a great game. I think overall, it's a little bit worse than the other game I reviewed on my channel, Lunacid, but I do think it's great in the sense. So I do think it's a 7 out of 10. I think that's a B for me. I do think Oblivion, I would replay it again and again. I have 100 hours in the game now, and I would say I'd replay it. I think I'll come back to it. I don't think I'd never play it again, but I do think that as an experience, it does leave some to be desired, but for what it is and for when it came out, to be honest, I don't think they could have done a better job. I think this is as good as anyone could have done, given the technology at the time. I think Oblivion is a great masterclass in how to do a lot with very little. And while there are things that I wish were more fleshed out, like the Radiant AI system and the Oblivion Gates, for its time of 2006, I think this game is extremely serviceable, and I would recommend you buy it, especially considering the fact that the game is pretty much $10 at all times, and I think it goes on sale for $5. That's an absolute steal. That's an absolute steal for this game. I would 100% tell you to go buy it right now and play it. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this retrospective. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.